So in about 20 days, I'm going to Catalina Island. I'm gonna go on a 6-day, 5-night hiking / camping trip. And as a result, I'm gonna need some sustenance. And so I got 6.5 pounds of bottom round. And with bottom round, I'm gonna make biltong. Biltong is a South African style beef jerky. It's basically a dried meat, but different from American style beef jerky. It's not sweet, and also it's not cut into small little pieces. It's slabs of meat. And I'll show you that right now. I got this at Gemsbok market. It's my go-to when it comes to premium sort of meats. It's a little pricey, but occasionally I don't mind, spending a little extra, especially, it's good to support local businesses. So let's pop this open. And I had the butcher cut me a nice center cut. So yeah, really beautiful piece of meat right there. And get this. And so with biltong, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make kind of about 1 inch cuts, just like that. I'm already cut it like that. And I'm probably gonna leave it a little long. But basically with biltong, let me quickly get a paper towel system right here. Biltong, the chief difference flavor-wise from American style beef jerky is the spices, right? There's no sugar whatsoever. So all I got here is, I got white vinegar, I got salt, I got Worcestershire sauce, coriander, black pepper. Now, 200 years ago, it probably would have only been vinegar, salt, and coriander, black pepper. If they were really in desperate times, maybe they wouldn't even have the spices. It would just be vinegar and salt, of course. But the Worcestershire sauce, I've made it with and without. I have Liam Perrins. It's a good brand. I got it at Target, but you can find it anywhere. I like the Worcestershire sauce. It makes it taste like steak. It really just makes it taste like steak. And I have a bowl right here. And so what I like to do is I kind of layer it. And I'll show you what that entails. So first off, we got to cut the meat. And so what I do, I typically just go for it, but for the purposes of the video, cuts like about that big is nice. Right, so let's go ahead and go through it. This is my personal favorite knife when doing butcher work or whatnot. And yeah, the butchers at Gemsbok market are awesome. They asked me what part of I wanted a center cut, and they delivered. It's a really, and you see the fat kind of like marbled in the meat. It really makes for a nice mouthfeel with the actual final product, because if this was all meat, it'd be a little bit tough, but at the same time, like a big chunk of fat like this, you don't want it because fat doesn't quite dry out the way actual like muscle, like the actual meat does. And so if it's too chunky, it becomes very chewy. And so little bits of fat, that's fine. But wow, this is a really nice cut actually. Very nice cut by Gems. Like this is perfect. You got the bits of fat throughout. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this off. And biltong, so I mentioned it's South African, but its history is actually really interesting. So of course, preserving meats in vinegar and salt is, thousands of years old. But the story of biltong is interesting. So I believe it was probably around the 1600s or so, the Dutch started to colonize what would become South Africa, but at the time was known as the Cape Colony. And it was sort of centered around modern day Cape Town. And what happens is the Dutch would go on, and that would be a colony just like all their other colonies in the Dutch Empire. And at the time, the Netherlands was known as the Dutch Republic. That was the entity in control. But the Dutch Republic would be effectively dismantled by Napoleon. It was actually prior to the Napoleonic Wars. It was in the French Revolutionary Wars. I believe it was 1797, but somewhere in the late 1790s, Napoleon would invade the Netherlands and dismantle the Dutch Republic. And in it would install what the so-called Batavian Republic, which was the French client state. It was basically a puppet state ruled by his brother Louis. I believe it was Louis Napoleon who ruled the Batavian Republic. But that's off the dome, so I'm not quite 100% sure. Of course, remember, cutting it about an inch thick. You want the slices, the slabs to be relatively the same size. Doesn't matter for right now, but you definitely want it when it's hanging to be the same size or as close as you can. Otherwise, you got to be even more vigilant than needs be. But anyways, the Batavian Republic, which is a French sister republic and a Napoleonic puppet state, is installed, and as a result, it sides with France, of course, and the British, who are against the French in the Napoleonic Wars, end up taking over many of the Dutch colonies, including the Cape Colony. And so the settlers, who were those Dutch settlers initially, but now they're overtaken by the British, those original Dutch settlers are called Boers. And so when the Dutch basically are removed as rulers of the Cape Colony, the British replace them, and the Boers are sort of eventually forced to move up north as British settlers take their spot. And the Boers would eventually establish Boer states. It was the republics of Transvaal being trans across the Vaal River, and the Orange Free State, the House of Orange being the Royal Dutch House, dynastic house. And so in the late 1800s, the British would actually fight these Boer states in what was known as the Boer Wars. And the Boers are a rugged people. They lived off the land as best as they could. They were avid hunters, great, very skilled outdoorsmen. And this is how they survived when they'd hunt big game like, deer and antelopes and whatnot. They'd take such meats, springboks, and, various gazelles, antelopes, I'm not quite sure, but various game, and they'd make biltong out of it, right? So I'm using, of course, this beef, and that's not necessarily traditional, but you got to use what you have. I have a buddy who is an avid hunter, and he occasionally hunts deer, and he makes his biltong out of deer. So all depends what you got. As long as you got it and you dry it and you use the same sort of style and spices, you've got essentially biltong. And also you got to make sure to another defining element of biltong is the fact that it is cut right before eating. So you dry it in slabs, and you take off the slabs from the drying rack or whatever, and then you cut it right there and you eat it. And so this is my last piece. Just a little brief history of biltong. I think it's very much interesting. Beautiful. All right, so next step, so we have right there, we have it cut up. Next step, probably the most important step, is the spices. And so I've got here black pepper, and I've got here coriander. These are defining biltong spices. So I got a pan dry, not heated yet, so. And I use a lot of coriander in mine, so. And it's a lot of meat, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use all my coriander. Coriander's not too expensive. You can make sure whenever you're buying any spices, not just coriander, but do not go to Whole Foods, don't go to Vons, don't go to Target, don't go to any big box grocery store. Go to your local Indian, Iranian, or Mexican markets, because you'll find them in greater quantities for lower prices. It's just the best bang for your buck when it comes to spices. So that's a little tip. Do not waste your money at Whole Foods or Vons or whatever it is. So I just want to toast it. Close up right here. So I don't want it to turn so much color. I just want to give it a little bit of heat, and as it heats up, the oils start to be released. And I'm going to do the same thing with the black pepper. And the beauty about both coriander and black pepper is that when you crush them up, they actually act as natural repellents for, you know, little critters. They don't like, humans are pretty big and advanced creatures, and we actually like these compounds, the volatile compounds, so to speak, of various spices, including those present in black pepper and coriander. But for such small creatures like, you know, flies and whatnot, and I don't know, various insects, it's actually really off-putting, and so they won't even go near it. And I'll show you my contraption that I've made. I have a homemade dehydrator. But so this acts as like a second guard, right? If they somehow get through the netting that I have in place, you know, they won't even go near it because it's so off-putting to them. And yeah, so you can already really smell it, and it's only been probably 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And of course, coriander is this if you plant it, grows into cilantro. So that's a little cool thing. I love cilantro, but yeah, both the plants and the seed, absolutely delicious. All right, and once this is all toasted up to what I like, right there we got our spice grinder, and that'll be the next step. All right. And so the next step after you toast off your spices is you're gonna, of course, grind them up. So I didn't show it there, but I actually managed to find some pink peppercorns and white peppercorns, and so I just mixed that in there. I like, you know, it adds, pink peppercorns are a little fruitier. They're not as quite as dry, and the white ones just kind of look cool, I think, so I just added them in there. And make sure to leave a little, not at this stage, but basically when they're done, this is all for a marinade, of course, what we're doing right now. But once they're done marinating and once they're actually hanged, right as they go on the hanger, you want to actually add another layer of freshly ground coriander and black pepper. So I'm gonna leave, that's good. I'm gonna leave like that much for the garnish, and the rest I'm gonna blend up. And now for this, you know, you could make it pretty fine because this is just for a marinade. There you go. So don't do what I just did because this is plugged into the wall, but it smells awesome. But it smells fantastic. So as you see, it's pretty fine, and I'm just gonna pour it into one big bowl. And next I'm going to add my various peppercorns, and again I'm gonna leave some in reserve. That's gonna go after it's done marinating, right before it goes onto the hanger. That's going to be the secondary coating. So black pepper is way more potent than the coriander, so you might cough, you might sneeze, and without even opening, I see that there's a lot of sort of vapor that's gonna come off from it. That's good. Yeah, all that vapor. And of course, if you grind it right when it's right after toasting it, you know, those oils will start to flow, and it actually sort of clumps up a little bit just because there's a bit of moisture with that oil, but that's good. You don't want it super fine. I mean, this is decently coarse, and that's just gonna all blend up real good. But you want to make sure the big important step here is that it's toasted whole spices that you freshly ground. That's the important bit in all this. So I'm just gonna mix this up. And we're gonna go on to the next step. So this is The final step, we got our spice blend, we got our meat cut up, the appropriate thickness. Now, this is what I do. I'm gonna first make like a bed in some sort of big bowl, bed of vinegar. And first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dunk this in the vinegar. And I should have had this Worcestershire sauce. And you know, don't be shy with the Worcestershire. The more you add, the tastier it'll be. So, ought to be good. So I'm just gonna marry that in. And then get a bit of your cutting board reserved, a nice spot. What I like to do is I take this, and it's almost like a dredge kind of. I'll take some of this and I'll literally just rub it on. So I'll rub it on, and I'll put a bit of salt. Funny enough, almost forgot a very crucial bit. And it doesn't matter that I did this now or if I had done it before. Take a knife and you gotta score it. So just like this. So, right, just a couple grooves is all you need. Just something to let that marinade really get through there. So I'm doing 3 cuts there, 3 more that way. Really nothing to it. I mean, at some point, it just becomes kind of intuition. And it just makes sense, right? You want that marinade, that good spices to kind of penetrate through the meat. As a result, you gotta create some slits. Now that you have your steak scored, that's when you're gonna add your spices. You're gonna make sure to add some salt. Now with salt, I really don't use any fancy salt. I use Morton's. I think it's Morton's, I don't even really know. Or Care. I use the iodized salt. So nothing fancy here. And so that's that. There you go, that's the first one. And we're just gonna do the same thing to all of them. All right, so it's all marinated, all the rubs on it. And what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna transfer it over to some plastic bags. It has to be in the fridge with the marinade, and I still got that liquid that we did it, so I'm gonna put that in the bag, along with the leftover coriander and black pepper. And I'm gonna put that all in the bag, and we're gonna put it in the fridge 48 to 72 hours. I've done both. I don't know if there's a difference. It just depends on what's convenient for me. So we're gonna first do some of the spice, and I'm just gonna, I guess I'll eyeball it. So just don't want to wait. I don't want to throw anything out. So there you go. That's about half. And I'll also put a little bit of extra salt. Of course, the salt, you know, it's more to cure it. And then I got myself a ladle, and I'm gonna ladle this, some of it in here. I think I could get one more, and then I'll put the rest for the other one. Okay. Now, all I'm gonna do now is make sure to get all the air out. So of course, you leave a little hole there, push it, and just like that, you have a vacuum seal. You don't need one of those fancy machines. You made it yourself. And let's get this up close. Nice. Just gonna massage it a little bit. And what I like to do is, let's say, you know, you put it in the fridge and it's like that, right? So you'll let it be for, I don't know, half a day, and I'll flip it over. That's all you do. another half a day, flip it over, just so it's even. But this isn't done. What I'm gonna actually do, just because I want it to really cure, and I also want it to get the taste of vinegar. The vinegar beyond curing is it's gonna be a vinegary taste if you're into that. So I'm gonna pour a little bit more, and I'm gonna pour some more Worcestershire. And with the spices already on it and everything, it's really gonna come together. Now, there we go. Now it's all submerged in a flavorful liquid, and there's still too much air in it, so I'm actually gonna, there we go. So now, there we go, that's what it's supposed to look like. A nice flavorful liquid. And so now it really makes a difference, right? If you were to do all, 72 hours, let's say like this, the bottom pieces are gonna get way more flavor than these top pieces. So you gotta flip it. All right. So these are our 2 bags of biltong. It's about 6.5 pounds. And we're gonna put this in the fridge for probably, I'd say 48 hours I'm gonna do this time because I need them kind of soon. Basically, the reason why I'm making the biltong in the first place is I'm going on a 5-night, 6-day hiking, camping sort of trip out across Catalina Island, the Trans-Catalina Trail. And I'm gonna take with me biltong, nuts, dried fruit, and a little bit of fresh fruit. So yeah, the biltong is gonna be a big part of my diet on those 6 days, and it's just pure meat. So next time we'll be hanging them onto my homemade dehydrator, which I'll showcase soon. All right, so this is 5 days later. The biltong's looking really good. Sure to be flavorful. And basically what we're doing is we're gonna put it in my homemade dehydrator or biltong box, whatever you want to call it. This biltong box, basically it serves as a sort of like an area where there's going to be a guaranteed draft. And the reason why is because, I'll show you the lid right here. This goes on top, and this is just a plastic bin I got from I think it was Walmart, and that's a computer fan on top of it. And so it's plugged in, and I'm just going to plug that into the wall. And as such, that computer fan is going to get going. And here I have plugged in a light bulb. So I made a hole in here and I plugged in an old light bulb, and that old light bulb is important. It's important for it to be old and not like one of these fancy new modern LED ones, because old light bulbs are inefficient, and because they're inefficient, they give off a lot of heat. And so you have a hot thing right there, it's gonna help circulate the air, and you got a fan, and so it makes sure that there's always moving air. And with moving air, it gets rid of the basically water from inside the meat and dries it out. And over here I have my hooks, which I'm just sterilizing by putting in, I've just placed them in some white vinegar, the same vinegar that I actually used to marinate the meat. And over here I have my spice blend, same spices that I used to marinate it, but it's a little bit coarser ground. And so yeah, biltong box is really easy. I have these wooden dowels, I have some tin foil, and then I have some paper towels there to catch the drippage that will be. But if you have somewhere, let's say in front of some sort of window that you could hang them, you could easily do that. Again, the coriander and the black pepper are natural insect repellents. So first step is you take it out, and all you gotta do is get a little bit and a lot of it. There you go. And I have a dry bowl, and I'm just coating this, and this coating gives a good flavor when you're cutting it at the end. And so just make sure to get the excess. And so this is exactly how the coating gets on. And with this grind, with this spice blend, just drain these. And with the spice blend used in this sort of finishing stage, I put a higher proportion of white and pink peppercorn, and that's because they're nice to look at, and also I think the flavor at the end is pretty nice. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pierce it, right, with the thing, right? Real simple, nothing to it. And I'm gonna hang it. And so this is a pretty big piece, and so what I'm going to do is I'm gonna attach it one end like that, one end like that. And so this is gonna go, sorry, this way actually. That. And so this is gonna go like this. And there you go. And just like that, you have it hanging. So I'm gonna adjust it actually a little bit because I don't want it. I want it to be kind of on its side. I'm just demonstrating one. For the rest one, there, that's perfect. So you see, it's vertical. It has to be perfectly vertical like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and hang out the rest, and we'll be back soon. So this is the final product. I have it all plugged in. Again, light bulb, fan, both of them on, and that works to circulate the air. And to help that out, I put holes on both sides. There's about 6 holes on both sides of the box, and also there's 4 holes up here. All of them are covered by this sort of mosquito netting, and I just taped around to make sure that's right there in place. And I've never had any issue whatsoever. This is my 4th time making biltong, and I've never had any issue of any sort of insects getting in there, not only because of the netting, but also simply they don't want to get near all that ground up coriander and black pepper, which is giving off basically deterrents. And there you see how caked on that final spice coating is. And it was just a higher proportion of pink and white peppercorns just for the look and for the taste. It's a fruitier, sweeter taste versus just straight black pepper. But yeah, I'm gonna let this go for approximately 2 weeks. And because I let it marinate for a little longer than I typically do, it'll probably be a little bit soft in the middle by the time I have to head out to Catalina. But while I'm on the trail, I'll make sure to put these in paper bags so it actually dries while I'm on the trail, while I'm out there, because it's gonna be sunny. And by the time I open each one, it should be perfect eating sort of dryness. And you don't want it to be super dry, you want there to be a little bit of give. So we'll come back to this when it's ready to slice up. All right. Okay, it's been about 2 weeks now, and the biltong is pretty much ready. So I've already taken off a few. These thinner bits, they're pretty much hard. However, the thickest one over here has still got a little bit of give and is probably a little couple days away from being fully ready, so I'm not going to take that one on the trail, but those thin ones I'm about to cut up. And one important thing throughout the process is that the sort of rate of drying really has to be controlled. If it's too quick, if the moisture is removed from the meat too quickly, what happens is that the outer crust becomes drier and it almost forms like a seal. And that doesn't allow for interior moisture to escape the slab of meat. And then what happens is, like, you could leave this in for, however long, and the interior will not dry out how it's supposed to be. So just make sure that the rate of drying isn't too fast. And luckily, that's not what happened in our case. I cut up a specimen right here, and as you see, it's pretty decently even. Can't get the light on it quite good, but it's all right. Yeah, and it's of course like blackish, that color, because of the Worcestershire sauce that kind of penetrated through, and yeah, it tastes great. And this is a whole slab I'm about to cut up, but I'm basically gonna cut the rest of them up, put them in a big plastic bag, and that's also gonna help with the moisture, because basically it's gonna distribute moisture between each other, and it becomes more well, it becomes tastier. Basically the texture becomes better like that. So yeah, I'm gonna cut the rest of these up, and next time I see you, it will be on the trail. All right, as we can see here, we are on the Trans-Cat, as locals say. It's pretty beautiful. Out in the distance there, you see clouds. The whole island is surrounded by pretty awesome seas that are, of course, they're all covered by clouds right now for some reason, and so it's very like mysterious and mystic and whatever. And of course, right now I'm probably like 1,200 feet above sea level. But the biltong was a success. I camped last night at a place called Hermit Gulch, which is right by Avalon. I just wanted to stay around and explore Avalon a bit before heading onto the trail. And there I busted out the biltong that I already cut up, and I actually offered it to my neighbors who were a married couple. One of them was Australian, the other one Chinese. And yeah, they enjoyed it. The guy's Australian. I don't know if I mentioned this, but across the entire Commonwealth, biltong is popular. Of course, biltong, being from South Africa, was a part of the British Empire at one point, a dominion it was. And so ideas in the British Empire oftentimes were exchanged, especially between the dominions, and as such, biltong is popular in New Zealand and in Australia and Canada and the UK, of course. But yeah, absolute success. The biltong one's totally delicious. I'm glad I added a little bit more Worcestershire than usual, but yeah, 7 miles into the Trans-Cat, I'm loving it. So yeah, on we go. Beautiful chaparral. Holy shit. Catalina had bison introduced to them probably like, I don't know, 50 years ago or so, a little more than that. And I just stumbled across one. Holy shit. I'm about 150 feet away, but that thing's massive. I'm gonna stick around for a while. I'm not gonna go near the thing. That bison can run like 30-35 miles an hour, and they could definitely gore you just like a bull would. Freaking insane. Alright, onto the trail, onto Blackjack. It's been 30 minutes, and this bison is literally taking the trail. He's taking the Trans-Catalina trail, or she. And it's hard to keep a visual while trying to stay 100 feet back. I mean, I don't want to lose contact, because then I don't know where the hell he is. I don't know where the danger is, but at the same time, you got to stay back, and then you have these ridges that totally obscure him. So they said there was a small probability, and I guess I'm lucky because there's only about 300 bison on the whole island. But this guy's taking my route. I'm not getting near. And Blackjack, which is my campground, is literally over the hill. After 10 miles, this is what's stopping me for 30 minutes. Oh God. That's a bison. After 45 minutes and what felt like an eternity, I passed that bison. I had read about bisons in Catalina, but
never did I expect I'd run into one, and lesser did I expect that it would hold me up. I'm like a couple minutes away from Blackjack, the second campground from Avalon on the trail. So I'm glad I could get back to my typical pace of much more than 0.2 miles an hour. So yeah, about to make camp. So made it to Blackjack, but I'm actually gonna move spots because some surfer dudes and people I met last night invited me out to their corner, so I'm gonna do that. But I just wanted to show you guys real quick the final product. And you remember when I said it's a little bit better if it's a bit in the bag? So look at all this. It's perfectly like hydrated and humid in the bag, and it's just the most unctuous, delicious, perfect meat. And you know, it's vetted by other fellow campers who can't get enough. So yeah, awesome recipe. Definitely make sure to try it out. Yeah, having a great time. Biltong is fantastic. I just had a nice beer. Everything's going well. I just left the airport where I had a fantastic burger and a much needed 16-ounce beer. But I stumbled across this, which I've been seeing all over the place. These are, of course, you know, normal cactus or whatever nopales, but these prickly pears are absolutely delicious. You can find them in the markets, supermarkets in LA and probably most of Southern California. But I'm an idiot and I forgot my knife, and also I forgot my gloves. And as you see, these are called prickly pears because they're prickly. And when I was on the trail yesterday, I neglected. I thought like, okay, maybe if I handle it properly, I could get around it. No, my whole hand filled with prickles. And for about 30 minutes, I was just like getting them out with my teeth. I did get them out, but it was not fun, although it was delicious. The inside is super juicy. And so if you're ever on a trail and you see those and you got some nice protective mesh gloves or something like that, and of course a knife would be really helpful, but not completely necessary. Yeah, pop open a few prickly pears. It'll stave off your thirst, and they taste great. They're faintly sweet. But yeah, they're absolutely all over the place. All right, but I'm heading over to Little Harbor from Blackjack. Blackjack was really cool, awesome company, amazing company, I should say. And yeah, we're gonna head off into Little Harbor. Prickly pear. Onwards. All right. Stayed in 2 harbors last night. Beautiful campsite, beautiful little town. Loved it. General store there's pretty cool too. And honestly, considering the remoteness of the location, prices weren't too bad. And right now I'm heading to Parsons. Just behind me are sort of my adoptive parents, so to speak, for this trail. Robert and Melody, who are a married couple. They're here celebrating Robert's birthday. But yeah, I've been with them for most of the trail, but this downward bit kind of headed forwards, surged forwards, and look at this huge descent into Parsons. And yeah, everybody, I just wanted to put a public service announcement here. Parsons, you could do it without trekking poles. If you're older, maybe you could use it, but I've done this whole trip without trekking poles, and everybody was telling me you gotta have it for Parsons to get to Parsons Landing. Not the case at all. I'm doing fine. I'm flat-footed, so if I could do it, anyone definitely under, let's say, 35 could probably do it. And I reckon even older, it's more of a mental thing, maybe trekking poles are. But yeah, we're descending into Parsons Harbor. Super beautiful. Biltong's awesome. Yeah, looking forward to spend my last night on Catalina at a beautiful spot. All right, moving on. Bit of a dumb move on my part, but I totally forgot to do an outro this morning when I got onto the ferry to get back to the mainland from Catalina. But anyways, might as well do it in my room. This is the Biltong box where I store it when it's not in use. Of course, right now I have no camping trips or hiking trips planned, so it's not, producing any biltong. But, I enjoyed the Trans-Catalina trail. It was 5 nights, 6 days, 38 or so miles. I have a couple blisters on my foot, but considering I'm flat-footed, it wasn't too bad. I know I'm going to be sore for maybe a few days just from the workout, especially the calves and the quads a little bit. But yeah, I enjoyed it. The nature there is beautiful. A lot of it's pretty untouched. And yeah, I'm willing to go back to 2 harbors, but I don't know if I'd ever do the trail ever again. Just because, been there, done that. You don't need trekking poles. I'm going to say if you're under, if you're reasonably fit and don't have any joint problems, you don't need trekking poles. I was definitely misled with that information. I didn't use it, but I was worried for a bit until I got to the hard part of the trail that everybody was saying you need it. You don't need trekking poles. But yeah, the biltong was also, a great success. It tasted fantastic, and also it was a great sort of conversation starter. I'd go up to random people, who I just wanted to spark conversation with. I'd be like, hey, you want some homemade beef jerky? And just like that, you make some memorable connections that hopefully, will last a while. But yeah, that was that journey. And hopefully there'll be many, many future ones. I'm a bit tired, a little bit exhausted, but it's good to be a little uncomfortable, to be grateful for modernity and our relatively comfortable lives, especially here in sunny, beautiful Southern California. All right, on to the next adventure.
All right, so this is gonna be. Alright, okay. I saw you holding it in. Okay. Alright, the flash is on. In about 20 days, I'm going to Catalina Island, being that I'm from LA. I'm going on a 6-day. Alright, you stupid idiot. Why did you do that? So it's all flashes on.
God damn it.
Alright, so it's been about 2 weeks.